Hey, Michael the Parrot Wizard here, visiting Parrot Stars in Arlington Heights, Illinois, outside Chicago. This is Alexis, and one of the things that I'm most impressed with about Parrot Stars is they keep all the parrots flighted. This is unfortunately unusual, but it's becoming more and more the norm, and they're leading in this process. And I have lots and lots of training videos and articles, information to help support you with a flighted parrot so that you know you could do it. And the store is an incredible place where they are helping create the basis for this. So, Alexis, tell us more
Absolutely.
about how you can keep hundreds of birds flighted and do it
Sure.
responsibly.
So I think the most important component is that we allow them to fledge completely. So the moment we're starting to see them exercise their wings and get really mobile, we allow them to start taking flight. And when they build the muscle and they build their own sense of confidence with their own flight, they become incredibly coordinated flyers. So when we have young birds that are first exploring different spaces, they're clumsy for maybe a day or two or a half hour or so, but they usually develop the ability to turn, to land, to lift up and decline very, very safely and easily. And we've seen a lot more confidence in the parrots themselves. They seem a lot more relaxed. They're appearing to be incredibly more trusting with us. For example, they've not met Michael here before, but they're all hanging out with no issue or concern. And I think it helps build trust with one another as well. So when they're with different birds that they're not super familiar with and they have the option to fly away if they're starting to get nervous or they're not sure who they just flew next to, they'll just fly in the opposite direction and it doesn't create confrontation. And it's allowed us to have an environment where we have a huge space of fully flighted birds. And of course, they're always heavily supervised when they are out of their cage, but they get to exercise, they get to play, and they get to learn all those important skills that we hope will last them a lifetime.
But people say, don't you have to clip them for safety?
We're trying to help educate that clipping the wings is not the best answer to keeping your parrot safe. If your parrot is outside of its enclosure in a household, we do want to make sure that all of the windows and doors are shut. That is going to be the way we prevent a bird from flying away. And if you're worried about the dangers of a bird possibly flying into a window or hitting a wall, again, that's where we feel it's super important to let them fledge properly, because a lot of times it only takes them exploring a new space a few times for them to learn where those boundaries and those barriers are, and they learn to evade them. They'll learn to bypass windows and they'll turn before they hit a wall. So it is, in our opinion, a lot more safe to keep them fully flighted than it is to clip the wings.
Don't you need to clip wings to be able to gain trust and be able to handle your bird?
Okay, so we hear that a lot as well. And again, in all this time that we've been working with fully flighted parrots, we're actually finding that their sense of confidence is significantly greater because they have the option to leave if we're making them nervous. So when we are able to motivate a parrot to come to us, ideally with a food treat, but even just with socialization, and they're doing it when they are making the choice and it's on their own free will, that's where the bond and the trust is growing incredibly fast. So we're actually seeing that people are training a lot more successfully when the parrot is fully flighted and has a choice about how they're engaging with us as their trainer as well.
And that's really important because, in particular, for parrots, it's fight or flight, and fighting is not their first go to. They prefer to fly off. So you can prevent a lot of parrot biting and not have those aggression type problems when the bird can just fly off and look at you from a distance when it's uncomfortable. It can tell you, no, I'm not quite ready for that with its wings rather than its beak. It's much more painless. However, on the flip side, you would say, well, how can I get to that bird? How can I pick it up? How can I put it away? That's where training is just so important and so efficient. By just a few minutes of training every day, by following a effective schedule and doing things in a particular way, you teach that bird that it's time to come out, it's time to go in, it's time to come and hang out and still be friends. And look at these guys. They are flighted. they're not used to me. They're not used to this room necessarily.
Mhm.
But after a few minutes and a couple flights around, they settle down on their tree and they're perfectly content to stay there.
Yes.
But they're doing it because they choose to be there, not because they're clipped and can't come off of there. So in this case, the tree is a tree rather than just a cage outside the cage.
Yes.
So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And I do have a question for you because I know you do a lot with harness training. So could you explain a little bit about how to keep them fully flighted and introduce them to the outdoors in the safest way possible?
That's a great question. And in fact, it has nothing to do with keeping their wings trimmed or flighted, because even clip birds fly off outside. And in fact, clip birds are sometimes even worse off when they fly outside because they'll fly up into a tree with a gust of wind and they don't even know how to fly back down. So clipping is not the answer for outdoor safety. Whether your bird is clipped or flighted, you should always use either a travel cage, carrier, harness, or aviary when taking that bird outside. Now, a harness is probably the most interactive and exciting way to be able to have an interactive experience with bird outside, but it's not the only way. You can use a travel cage or build an aviary in your yard. There's a lot of ways you can keep that bird safely enjoying the outdoors without putting their safety in jeopardy by clipping their wings and having a false sense of security.
Right.
I think that the biggest problem with wing clipping for outdoors is the false sense of security, because they fly off either way, and we don't want to take that chance.
Right.
But I'm super excited to be here at Parrot Stars and being able to share my experience and knowledge and see the experience and knowledge that they have as well. They are a very valuable source of information. They go above and beyond anyone to inform their customers and make sure that they are going into it knowingly, aware. They are not trying to sugarcoat things and make it seem like it's too good to be true. They say it as it is, and if a bird's not right for you, then I guess find another pet, right? That's okay.
Or you can just come in and observe them from afar in a controlled setting without having them in the household. So we are very much focused on education, and you can come in or call with questions at any time, regardless of your experience level. So you do not have to be a bird owner to still come in, learn about parrots in general, get a little bit better understanding about the different species, or just come in and get some really cool pictures. So we do try to leave it a very open door policy that you can come in just to learn.
So thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and see you next time.